ball is life, plain and simple. You know, ask any baller. If you know, you know.
The game has changed, but it's still the same. You want it, go get it.
Shazam!
The inbounds pass comes into Jordan. Here's Michael at the foul line. The shot on Elo. Ah, the Bulls win! They win it!
Mike, you're honestly telling me that he's top 5.
Yeah.
Top 5 of all time.
No question about it.
Booker, this is for the win. Got it! Wow!
The ruling on the floor is made basket.
You know, one thing's for sure. Over at Valley Sports Plug, you're never going to catch us slipping.
With the first overall pick, the Phoenix Suns select
3, 2, 1, yeah!
Welcome to Pass the Outlet, episode number 32. I'm your host, Michael Benjamin, joined as always by my wingman, Chris Patrick. Chris, how you doing tonight? And how much Under Armour stock have you invested in, man?
Oh, I've been dumping it. I've been dumping it, Mike. I don't know, man. Under Armour could be a risky investment, but I'm sure now that they are free from the Steph Curry chains, or I don't know if it's the other way around, but who knows? Might be another young star on the rise that comes up into Under Armour. But Mike, I'm glad to be back. It's been a couple weeks since I've been on the microphone. Is this thing on? Is this working? But glad to be back. Glad to be here talking Phoenix Suns basketball and just basketball in general. But Mike, how have you been, man? I know you've been holding down the fort.
I've been great. This thing is back on, and please do not invest in Under Armour, but we're not financial advisors. But of course, here on Pass the Outlet, we break down the beautiful game of basketball. And tonight, Chris, might end up being my favorite show that we've ever done. We have to take a look at what's clicking for a surprising start to the 2025-2026 campaign for the Phoenix Suns. Then we have some massive news in the sneaker world to break down, including the long-tenured split of Steph Curry and Under Armour. You know, Chris will bring us the news from around the net on the social Swish, and we'll end with the outlet point guard reminiscing on a childhood favorite from yours truly, Mr. Benjamin. But if you're here with us live, watching the playback on Valley Sports Plug YouTube, or listening on podcast streaming services, we love y'all. Make sure you subscribe to the VSP YouTube channel, leave a like on this video, and click that notification bell so you can stay up to date with everything we have going on here at Valley Sports Plug. But Chris, we have to start off, and it's safe to say it's been a breath of fresh air and a fresh start for the Phoenix Suns, man. We were talking before we even started today. Man, we still got basketball to watch tonight because the Phoenix Suns are headed to Portland for a 9 p.m. tip-off against the Portland Trail Blazers. Scrappy young team sitting at about 6-7. But let's look at what the Suns have done to start this year. Obviously, kind of tough first 5 games. You're looking at, you know, some teams that could be in, well, I guess now if you look at it, it's really just Denver. But, you know, started 1-4, then they found their form. They won 7 of 8, including 5 straight games. But we know they dropped that really tough one, squandering a 22-point fourth quarter lead to the Atlanta Hawks in their last outing. But they currently sit at 8-6 and 8th in the Western Conference. Chris, I mean, is it safe to say it's been a better start than we could have hoped for or imagined? I'll pass it over to you, man. What are you seeing from this Suns ball club to start this year?
Man, honestly, Mike, like just a really fun team to watch. We got the luxury and the privilege to be in attendance for that Clippers game where we had the 1 game sampling of Jalen Green with limited minutes, put up really impressive numbers, was really fun to watch. I remember it was, I think maybe one of his first or second field goals. He took it straight to the rim and like kind of scooped it in. And we both kind of looked at each other like, oh man, is this what we're going to get? Really disappointing that he's, you know, out, of course, but I do like what I'm starting to see early. Dillon Brooks might be better for this team than we even ever thought he could be. A little bit of what we did expect him to be, though, as far as being a little bit scrappy, being a little bit chippy. We're going to have to live with taking some of those technicals. You just hate to see it come late in a game that affects the outcome, kind of like it did with the Atlanta Hawks. That was a really weird game the other night where it's like, I remember I wasn't watching the game, but I looked at my phone to check in on it, and we were up by like a good amount, like 20 or 20 plus. And then the next time I look at my phone later, it's a close game, and we're like about to throw it away, and ultimately ended up losing that game. But you're going to live with those growing pains with a young team like this. We went from one of the oldest teams to now one of the youngest teams. We got an exciting squad. And Mike, I mean, maybe it's a lesson for us in going into a season with little to no expectations. And then anything else that follows that's positive is a pleasant surprise. So are we playoff bound? I think we might pull out an old saying for that one, and I'm going to say pump the brakes a little bit. I think it is possible. I think it's very possible, but I can tell they're playing it safe with this team, especially with the decisions to send Kumon Malawach, and some of the other young guys down to the G League so they can get some reps, which I think is really important for Malawach, particularly with as young as he is, so he can get that playing time and actually learn the game of basketball at the high level a little bit more.
Yep. And let's just say that we went into this season, as Chris would say, with some cautious optimism, right? You know, the expectations is probably not to be a playoff team. We did our predictions. They weren't that great if you think about it. And they're outshining him to start this season. But if you look at what has happened to start, you know, there's been some really great showings, I would say. Obviously getting, you know, Utah pretty quick after that tough overtime loss in Utah on Halloween and really handling business, book with a big game in that one. And then coming back with possibly their best showing against San Antonio, really shutting down and having an incredible game plan for Victor Wembanyama, holding him only to 9 points, and then getting those two back-to-back, I would say dominating wins against the Clippers, who are kind of in turmoil. And now we know that Bradley Beal, PTO man, is on extended PTO for them for the rest of this year. But that's besides the point, Chris. I want to ask you, because I got a list here, but I want to give you the floor first. You already kind of talked about what you've seen to start from this Phoenix Suns team, but give me like a couple bullet points, or if you really have one major one, what do you think is the most important thing that's creating success for this team right now? What is working for the Phoenix Suns?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I think really just the effort. I remember hearing a story of a Colin Gillespie, and I forget who the other guy was, but they were coming off the bench last season, and they basically decided that, hey, we're not going to get a lot of opportunities, and we can see what's wrong from the bench. We're spending a lot of time watching this team. We can tell what's wrong. It's that there's not a lot of energy, not a lot of hustle, not a lot of heart. So when Colin Gillespie was like, when we get out there, I think it might have been Royce or someone like that, but when we get out there, we're going to bust our ass, and we're just going to we're going to work hard, because, you know, hard work beats talent any day, you know, that kind of mentality. And we saw Colin Gillespie play himself into a contract for this season, essentially, through that hard work. And I think that's kind of, that like dog mentality is kind of rubbed off, especially bringing in a guy with like Dylan Brooks. I think it might have reignited the fire in Devin Booker a little bit. I don't want to say he got complacent with Kevin Durant around, but it just, you know, you're starting to see a lot of those posts about like, it just looks like this team is having fun. And I remember walking out of that game that we went to, I literally told you, like, man, I had a lot of fun watching this team. Like that was a fun game to watch. Like, I know we're not going to, you know, make a deep playoff run. We're not expected to, you know, be in the finals this year, but that was a fun game to watch. Whereas, you know, sometimes it's so stress inducing when you have those high expectations and you expect a team to win, that like when everything's just going wrong, it's just so frustrating. So it's been a breath of fresh air, but I would say that's my one big bullet point, Mike, is that it just seems like they've been trying really hard, building the chemistry together and doing it the right way. And it feels more organic. I think the quote unquote brotherhood or the, you know, camaraderie that seems to be blooming.
And that's one of the first things that I had on my list, right? The strong chemistry that is starting to build. I think a lot of that can be, you know, from the influx of new talent, obviously, in Dylan Brooks. It sucks that Jalen Green went down. As Suns fans, you know, we're going to pull out all the stats that basically talk about how he was completely non-injury prone, played 82 games back-to-back, blah, blah, blah. But I still think that's a flash in the pan, and he'll be back and stronger than ever. And that's when we're really going to see where the growth of this team can go to finish this season. But until then, I mean, I've been loving seeing that they've been playing, around the 3-point shooting, ball movement, and energy on the defensive side. A lot of that can be from youth, right? But 13th in the NBA in scoring, Chris, 6th in 3-point percentage at 38.2. And from when, there was all those things on X talking about how the Suns might be the worst defensive team in the NBA. And I know, who was that from? Wasn't that Bill Simmons? And he had ended up saying it was just kind of like a joke thing or a possibility thing, whatever. But 10th in the NBA in points allowed right now at 114.4 per game. So it's been a great start, man. You already touched on it, the improved effort and urgency just overall. Throw away that Atlanta Hawks fourth quarter, right? But then you have the specific guys who are really starting to, just show what we were hoping for, to say the least, right? You got your boost from Grayson Allen, who I know is injured, but he'll be back soon. Colin Gillespie, you touched on. Been loving the big man dominating presence in Mark Williams. But Dillon Brooks, man, he is truly helping change this culture. And his scoring outbursts, I think some people don't love it, but you need it right now because you don't have Jalen Green, right? He's averaging 22 points and 2 steals per game. But then obviously the biggest one, Chris, is what we've been pining for the past 2.5 years, is to have the system centered around Devin Booker. 28.4 points, 7 assists per game. He's averaging 3 more points and 3 more field goal percentage points than his last year's average. If he continues this pace, we know the Western Conference is loaded, but they're really going to have to look at him for an all-star nod, Chris. And when your team is maybe not in contention to make deep playoff runs or be a title contender, why not go for those accolades? And I'm not saying that Book himself is going for him, but I'm saying as a selfish Suns fan, I'd love to see him represented once again in the All-Star game. And hell, if Grayson keeps dropping, 10 3-point attempts made per game, maybe he'll find himself in the 3-point shooting contest as well. But Chris, the last thing I have on the Suns for right now, because we're going to get into it plenty as the months go on. The Gauntlet is upcoming, Chris. The next 12 games after tonight, we have 3 at home against Minnesota, San Antonio, with no Victor Wembanyama now, but then Kevin Durant makes his return to the Valley. Then we go 5 out of the next 6 on the road at Sacramento, at Oklahoma City, come back for a quick one stop against the Denver Nuggets, then at the Lakers, at the Rockets, at the Timberwolves. Then we have a back-to-back against Golden State and finished up against the Lakers. This is the true test. But I think they have passed the test that we were hoping for before the season started, which was handling business against the teams that are worse than you. And they have put it on display, man. They pounced on the Indiana Pacers. They have really just been dominating against these lower teams that are in flux right now. Again, like we said, against the Clippers, the Dallas Mavericks, and the New Orleans Pelicans as well. So I cannot wait to be there. My next game I'll be at will be this Friday against Anthony Edwards in the Minnesota Timberwolves. But we're going to have some fun over the next couple of months watching this team. But Chris, before we move on, anything else you got to say about the Valley and the Phoenix Suns?
Yeah, man, I wanted to just, I know we've kind of passed it a little bit, but did want to just highlight or, piggyback off a point you made about Dillon Brooks. You mentioned that people might not love that he's scoring a lot right now, but we know he's capable of that when called upon. He did it in Memphis before he went to Houston for a couple of years. He's a guy who can get you 20 plus a game if you need him to. And that's what I think is something that I'm starting to love about Dillon Brooks is he's like a true like leader and like professional. He knows how to play a role and he can play multiple roles. If you need him to be off the ball, defensive minded, he'll show up and do that for you. If you need him to take the ball and put it in the basket, he'll do that for you as well. So I think it's good to have a guy that kind of knows his place, where once Jalen Green comes back, he knows that he's going to step back on the scoring side and probably have to, pour more of his efforts into those other aspects of his game, spacing the floor, setting screens, getting the other guys opportunities. But man, I do think that with the gauntlet ahead that you highlighted there, we're going to start to see this team maybe come back down to earth a little bit. Just fair warning there. And the last thing I will say is about the game tonight. I feel like this was a little bit of like the pre-show. I know a lot of those are going to start kicking off here in about 30 minutes, but man, games on NBC, nationally televised. I think that's pretty awesome. We don't have a lot of them this season. And Mike, I know you like the NBC broadcast that they brought back. It has a little three pop up when they make a three in the score bug, which I just learned that that's what it was called this last Super Bowl, the score bug, because that was a big thing. Everyone's making a fuss about that. So there's
score
a
bug. You
yeah,
didn't know
there's your
that?
trivia. No, I didn't know that. Never heard that before 2025.
The reason why I love the NBA on NBC is obviously, I think I touched on it. One of our other Past the Outlets is, I really just think about those NBA finals with Michael Jordan, specifically game 6 of the 1998 finals when he hit that jumper over. Oh my God, is Brian? I'm getting too old. There's too many things to remember, but love the theme song. Just love everything to start about the NBA season so far, and love what the Phoenix Suns are doing. So we cannot wait to see where they continue to go from here. And we will keep tabs on it. But Chris, this news story just really, I think, hit me out of left field, and we had to put it on the agenda for today. And that is Stephen Curry and Under Armour are splitting after nearly 13 years together. And it's crazy. And we're starting to see kind of how things went wrong and what is possibly going to happen with the Curry brand itself that was established a few years ago under Under Armour, kind of the similar way that Jordan brand had under Nike. But, Curry's going to have full ownership of his signature splash logo as part of this agreement for the split. The logo obviously remains under Under Armour for now, but ownership rights will transfer to Curry. I don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but just think about this deal for Steph, man. He signed in 2013 after he had left his annual deal with Nike, and the first rollout for the signature shoe came in 2015, and they put everything behind him, man. Jamie Foxx was in the rollout commercials. Analysts by 2016 were saying that they were projecting Curry would overtake LeBron as the active player with the best-selling signature sneaker in America. That's how high they were on what was going to come from Stephen Curry joining Under Armour. But over the past year, their stock has free fallen. It's dropped about 47.3%, Chris. In August, they announced that their projected revenue for the first quarter of 2026 fiscal year dropped by 4%. So I got a funny story to go along with this, and I think, a reality check of why it didn't work for Steph with Under Armour, even with a long-tenured partnership, because you'd think he was truly the face of Under Armour basketball, and now it has really come to an unceremonious end, man. But what do you think? I know you're not as big of a shoe guy as me. I've kind of dragged you along into the underworld that some might call the sneaker culture, but this is a big one, Chris. What did you think about Steph and Under Armour parting ways?
I'm not surprised. I was more surprised that he signed with Under Armour to begin with, I guess, than I was him now leaving. 13 years later, you said? That's pretty crazy. But Mike, when I think about it, and we play basketball, you quite a bit more than me, but historically, I've played quite a bit of basketball, had quite a few pairs of shoes, and I'd never once considered buying a pair of Curry shoes or Under Armour basketball shoes in general. And I feel like I just don't see a lot of people playing them. And it's not that I've ever heard anything particularly bad about the Curry shoes. I know Ian, that comes on every once in a while, he had a pair of Currys and he said he liked them. But he doesn't hoop a lot. And so I wonder if a lot of the shoe sales were coming from more casual, just basketball fans and people that aren't necessarily hardcore hooping, but just want to have some basketball shoes. I guess when I think about it, I'm curious where Steph Curry goes from here, because let's be honest, he's at the tail end of his career. How much demand and popularity is there still for Steph Curry post Warriors dynasty? Obviously Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, one of the greatest to ever do it. He'll probably end up with a lifetime deal, if I had to guess, with a Nike or Adidas or something like that. But it's interesting. I didn't know that he was originally with Nike. That's interesting.
And that's the great story that I have to hear to share with the people about this, that it wasn't a story I knew about until obviously all this news started breaking, and then everybody kind of does their research and does the digging. And the story is about previous Dallas Mavericks GM Nico Harrison. Chris, Nico Harrison once again found a way to mess things up. So the story goes is that Nico Harrison was a former Nike exec. And in 2013, when Steph's kind of renegotiation was up, he was the exec that was assigned to basically court Curry to stay with Nike. And apparently the presentation was just an utter disaster. Him and his dad, Del Curry, were there. Obviously, Steph is still a young guy, but he was starting to be established in the game. It was right before his finals runs and started in 2015, 2016 era. But, they mispronounced his name like multiple times. And they showed a slide like in their presentation that was clearly meant for Kevin Durant. Like it wasn't even meant for Steph. So, it made it an easier decision for Steph to go to Under Armour, because at that point, I don't think Nike was courting Steph to be a signature athlete and have his own shoe. But Under Armour threw everything at him. They threw the bag, they threw the signature shoe that was going to be one of their first models for a signature athlete under the basketball branch. And it started off great, right? Like we said, the analyst said by 2016, he might be the number one selling guy. But apparently Nike missed out on $14 billion of possible revenue by not being able to re-sign Steph. And the rest is kind of history with that. But the big thing where I think this all ended up failing, because yes, it was 13 years, but what did the sales really show? Where were the numbers? And like you said, Chris, like even as a younger kid in your 20s, not a lot of people thought to buy that brand. And the biggest thing is because I don't think Under Armour understood how to properly market to basketball sneaker culture, which is so big in regard to sales of shoes, right? Yeah, you have your retros built in because that has been established for almost 50 years at this point. But Under Armour always wanted to push the product quality and the tech and not really dive into true lifestyle plus performance. They always just wanted to push the tech. And for a lot of young fans, especially when Curry was at the height of it, you're talking about marketing to 10 to 17-year-old kids. And if it's not a kind of a flashier shoe that looks super cool, that's where the dollars weren't coming in for UA. So it's just, man, you said you might not be surprised, but I was kind of taken off guard because I just thought, especially with the establishment of the Curry brand for Under Armour as its own separate entity, I thought he'd be there for life, just kind of doing whatever he wanted to do. And, he had kind of signed his first signature athlete under that brand in De'Aaron Fox, who has had a couple of rollouts. But same thing there, Chris. You've been hooping with me. Have you seen anybody in De'Aaron Fox's shoe? I haven't. So
great point.
The unceremonious end to a decade plus relationship between Steph Curry and Under Armour puts the question out, like you said, where will he go now? What will he do? Obviously, Steph is such an established brand. People will be fighting over him. But with that story of Nico Harrison and the botched, presentation, does he still have a really kind of dirty taste in his mouth for Nike? Does he find himself somewhere else? Or I think with him in the negotiation, keeping his signature swoosh and basically keeping the Curry brand title itself, I have a feeling he's going to go out and do his own thing and get his own backing and just be his own established Curry brand. And we'll see how that goes, man. We will see how that goes. But Chris, it's time to get into the news around the net with the social swish. I have a feeling we got some more sneaker news. So what do you got for us today, man?
Oh, yeah. Let me get this pulled up. This is the social swish news from around the net. And Mike, while I pull this up, I will just add one more comment to that last discussion. I just wonder how important the shoe is to Stephen Curry. I mean, even to be with Under Armour in the first place and for that long, and clearly Under Armour needed Steph Curry more than Steph Curry needed Under Armour. But what did he ever go to them and be like, hey guys, like I get the tech is cool, but like, can we make these more appealing? Like, was he worried about the sales? I mean, Steph Curry's made a ton of money from his contracts and God knows what else. Like, Steph's good on money. So I totally agree with you, Mike. I think he's definitely going to just go make his own shoe. It's not really going to be about the money. It's just going to be about having another passive source of income where he just has his people up and running that, and he sees the checks go into his bank account occasionally. And, the money printer go burr. But yeah, Mike, I got our first post here. Speaking of signature shoes, this is the shoe episode. Michael, I'm sure you have heard. Let me see if I can make this big enough where we can all see it. Maybe we won't get the picture involved, but a post here on X.com from one Shams Charania. Detroit Pistons superstar Cade Cunningham has reached a new 6-year endorsement agreement to re-sign with Nike and will receive his own signature shoe with the brand. His representatives at XL Sports Management told ESPN his signature shoe is expected to debut next year, or next season, I guess, 2026, 2027. And then Shams reposted it saying Cunningham becomes the 6th active NBA player to have a signature shoe deal with Nike, joining LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Ja Morant, Devin Booker, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. So, Mike, the roster is getting a little bit crowded potentially for the Nike signature shoe lines. I think the writing on the wall here is that there may be 1 or 2 signature shoes being discontinued. I would think that's my estimate. I know obviously you're a lot more tapped in on this subject. So what do you think?
So you can already knock 2 of those names off the list that will stay indefinitely, obviously, because they have lifetime contracts with Nike, and LeBron James and Kevin Durant. So you have to start looking at who is kind of left on this list. Ja Morant, it seems, is in a little bit of turmoil. He is not having a good time in Memphis, but his shoe and his 3rd model that just came out, very stylish. We just talked about that with what Under Armour didn't do. The kids love the Ja shoe. So that continues to pump out. And he's, like we said, he's already had his 3rd model. Giannis has become somebody who has been established with the Nike brand, who gets a yearly model consistently, right? And then we have our hometown guy, Devin Booker, which I know we're going to get into here shortly. But Chris, I love this decision from Nike to bring Cade Cunningham into the fold for a signature shoe. He's obviously a former number 1 overall pick, but he is really reshaping everything about the franchise in Detroit, the energy that is felt in that city. And I think this could be a positive for Devin Booker too, because we know that Devin is a Detroit guy. So I'd love to see some kind of switch over changes in shoes, or having a kind of like a special camaraderie there with Cade, but he's been a stud, man. It was only a matter of time. I feel like, right now he's averaging 27.5 points, almost 10 assists, 9.9 right now. He was an all-star last year. He was an all-NBA 3rd team member right now. He's led the Pistons to the early 1st seed in the Eastern Conference at 12-2. Oh, it was funny that this was kind of broke. The story was broke on Kevin Durant's podcast, The Boardroom. And you could see how psyched. Yeah, you could see how psyched Kevin was for him. So that's a big positive step, I think, for bringing in new talent to the signature shoe line for the truly established brands that have been around for decades. You talk about Nike, you talk about Adidas. Those obviously are the top 2, but it's something different from what, like Puma is trying to do. And they've gone the younger route, right? They have LaMelo, they have Tyrese Halliburton, whose first shoe should be coming out here within the next couple of weeks as well. But I wonder if, Cade really has to perform well, and he's off to a great start this year, but he's going to have to keep the consistency up if he's going to be one of these guys that gets like 5 models, right? Because I don't know if his personality is pushing things the same way. And that's why I say it's like Giannis is such a character, right? LeBron is LeBron. Kevin Durant is the troll on Twitter. John Morant is just the crazy athletic young guy who gets in trouble and that kind of stuff. So they have all those kind of spectrums. And Devin Booker is kind of the quiet guy off to the side who is just the baller and has a bunch of Chevys and wears Chuck Taylors and all that kind of stuff. Where does Cade fit into that? I almost kind of put Cade into the Devin Booker camp. And we're going to get into it with the books, Chris, but is that going to sell shoes? But at the end of the day, I think this is the right decision because you already got guys cornered off, the best of the best in the league that are with Jordan Brand, like Jason Tatum. I can't even say Zion, but it's the right move to bring Cade along for the ride as a former number 1 overall pick and a guy who is just a transcendent talent. One guy I was missing, Paolo Banchero, another guy, just absolute stud with Jordan Brand. So Nike rules basketball still. I don't care what you want to talk about. I know a lot of people put the Ant 1 as the shoe of the year last year, and that's great. That's all well, but who else's shoes are selling from Adidas? So congrats, man. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in 2026, 2027 with these.
Yeah, man. I think I'll be checking him out. But I agree with what you're saying about Cade Cunningham and he's really gonna have to come out the gate hot. And does he have not like as a shot and but this is like a genuine question. Like does he have like not necessarily a personality, but more like a footprint or like a reach outside of the game, like you kind of highlighted with those other guys. And even with Book, yeah, he is a little quieter, but his social circle is a little bit more leaning into the more broader culture. Obviously his relationship with Kendall Jenner for all those years, pretty sure he was spotted with like Jenna Ortega and a few other celebrities here and there. Not to say other NBA players aren't, but Devin Booker is of that caliber. The John Morant thing is interesting because obviously he is a super talented player, but the turmoil there and like all the off-court shenanigans and headlines he's been making. Obviously, I think a lot of it comes down to numbers for Nike. They're really only worried about the dollar signs and how many zeros are at the end of the money coming into their bank account. But yeah, super awesome for Cade. He's an exciting young player. I did not, I guess, realize that Hallie had his signature shoe coming out soon. So like while you were talking, I'm like, might have to keep an eye out for that because it's funny you mentioned it, Mike. Like I think I will be getting another pair of shoes here probably before the end of the year, maybe beginning of next year, just because I think it's time. But like all the shoes that I've gotten in like the last 5 years, with the exception of I think the Donovan Edwards Don issue 2s, have all been Nikes. So you're right, man. They dominate the market, and there's a reason for it. Like they're good.
They dominate the market still, but and I'm not trying to take away anything from anybody else, but there are still a lot of options out there nowadays. You could talk about leaning with Jimmy Butler, the Way of Wades. I had a pair of the 361 Jokers, right? Especially those Chinese brands are starting to really make a footprint into American basketball, which is awesome, right? More opportunities for you to get a cool pair of shoes. I specifically love that, right? So that's why I won't be like mad if Curry starts his own brand and tries to kind of find his own lane within, man, a tough world to navigate, especially nowadays, just with sales. And we know where the economy sits. Shoes have always been, that kind of side thing, right? It's not a necessity. It's always, it can be a prize. It can be something special, right? But Chris, Black Friday is right around the corner. This is the time to buy some shoes, man. Go out there, get you a fresh new pair. And who knows, man, within the next couple of months, it sounds like a second model of some other guy's shoe might be coming around the corner too.
Oof, that's going to be exciting. And what a tease there, Mike, because that leads right into our next post here via Instagram. Complex Sneakers and Soul Collector. The Nike Book 2 is coming.
Yes.
So, you think it's possible?
It just needs a professional. Of course he'll do it.
That's it. That's all they had to do. Dang.
What does it mean, Mike? I think this is awesome. And I'm going to throw this to you, but I was just going to say, like, with Devin Booker, like, he's done a really good with, like, I'm really surprised and impressed with how the book 1 is rolled out. I think the book 2 will do very good, and he is in conversations like coming out on social media this week and last week is of people again starting to say, is Devin Booker the best 2 guard in the league? Is Devin Booker the best shooting guard? And I think that that speaks well to him potentially continuing to have longevity with having a signature shoe and staying in the Nike brand. And I think we got to remember one last point I wanted to make. I know I'm kind of all over the place as my thoughts are kind of coalescing here, is like Devin Booker's only 29 years old, just turned 29 years old. I think he's really still coming into himself and has plenty of time to continue to grow himself and his brand and become supremely marketable. And really, really happy and excited for Devin Booker. And Mike, what do you think of all this and the Nike book 2 incoming? What have you been hearing?
Christopher, I have a whole bunch of thoughts for you. And I also have the timeline, because this is very important to really think about what's going to happen here with the book 2 coming out here. So Devin Booker was announced officially as a signature athlete that was going to get his own shoe on September 14th, 2023, right? And it was pretty quickly, within a couple of months, we had that very first pair, the clay orange pair that we were so excited for. Oh, Phoenix Suns colors, our guy getting his first shoe. It's going to be dropped in Arizona, right? No, it's dropped at Art Basel in Miami with only 500 pairs available. So I think we all kind of felt some type of way. But then the first official pairs that were basically truly open to the public, February 17th, 2024. And it sounds like the last release for a colorway, which is going to be the What the version. So it's basically a mismatch of all of his different colorways and shoes all put together. I don't know if you've ever seen like the What the Kobe's, the What the Paul Rodriguez is. It's a big shoe thing, especially for Nike too. But that's supposed to be scheduled to drop on December 16th of this year, 2025, with only 1,996 pairs available for purchase. So he's going out the same way that he came in. There has been a very distinct roadmap for the Nike Book 1. A lot of fans, especially Phoenix Suns fans who might not be tapped into the sneaker culture, Book was a different kind of guy they had to market. You weren't going to be able to pump out almost 10-month cycle type of shoe that you were with Ja Morant, because you had to get creative in the colorways. You had to be almost kind of, sell the story of D-Book. And a lot of what they've done with his first shoe has been nods to, great pairs of the past for Nike themselves. You talk about the Neon 95s. You talk about the Safari orange pairs. We have this awesome 1995 callback to the Phoenix Suns All-Star game, or, in Phoenix. Those kind of things have been just splashed throughout the entirety of this first Book 1 cycle. But it still is, it's been 2 years, man. I think just a lot of us who love Book, who have loved these shoes, not just to play in, but as a lifestyle shoe, because I will say, the first one was not made for me on the court, but they are comfortable as hell as just a lifestyle shoe. And I have 5 pairs of them. There have been over 70 different Book 1 colors made, Chris. This is anything from, his own PEs, college PEs. He did a bunch for Kentucky. He did some for University of Arizona. Pairs that don't go to the public, like, unfortunately, the Valley one that we just saw. There was also a really cool kind of maroon patent leather Chevy Camaro one that just dropped. And he's finishing off in a bang right now, it seems like. But over 20 colorways available for the public. They gave people the opportunity to buy these things. But my question is, did they flood it a little bit too much? And did they wait a little bit too long? So I think you touched on it perfectly, how Book is turning the corner and back into the page of favor for a lot of NBA fans. This is the perfect time right now to go on to the next model. But I don't know if they can do another 2-year cycle. And I don't think if that's really the plan for them either. I think they wanted to get him established, give people the option. Because like you're going through Nike right here, Chris, a lot of these are on sale, sitting still with availability. So it's time to turn the corner and get on to the next one. And I saw Dwayne Rankin at practice, doing a little film of Devin doing some shots, and it looked like he was in the book too. And I'm excited. I'm super excited. So sounds like it's coming spring of 2026. So anytime in between January to March. So it is really right around the corner, Chris. I cannot wait.
Man, I think every time I've thought, every time they go on sale, I've thought about getting another pair of book ones. Like I know you're the wrong. I'll never ask you for advice on that because you'll just tell me to get another pair. But yeah, those Scorpion ones are sick. I didn't even see those come out. Are those like straight like patent leather, or like
pretty much all patent leather with the Scorpion logos kind of all around it? Came out right around Halloween. So
that makes sense.
That's been some of the cool things too. And I know a lot of brands and a lot of the signature athletes will have, time frame specific shoes come out as well. But, like Book did the Nightmare Before Christmas pairs, a couple of those. Like I always love having themed shoes for basketball shoes as well, because we know nowadays, Chris, you touched on it too. Like I can get away with some flashiness and crazy colors on the court. I don't know if I can, I'm not taking the Air Bacons, the Ronald McDonald's, as some would call, and just walking around down the street. But
right.
I look real good with them on the court, and hell, they're great performers too. So yeah, it's always awesome to see those kind of things happen.
Yeah, it's real funny to like where it's like acceptable and not acceptable to wear certain shoes. Because I got those LeBron, I don't even know what number, set 19, 17, something like that.
The 19s.
The 19s, yeah. And they're bright yellow and they're kind of bulky. And like I would never think to wear them outside of the house or a basketball court. Because on a basketball court, it's like, oh, okay, he's wearing some bright yellow shoes. That's tight. But then, like, I was at work a couple years ago at my last job, and this dude was walking by wearing the same exact shoes with like blue jeans, and I was like, all right, that looks about as weird as I would expect it to.
Just a little bit.
So it's like it is what it is though. But yeah, I honestly I do love all the colorways, and it with the D-Book thing. I think that like marketing strategy of like the ones that only Devin Booker has, or like they only made a small number of that you're never going to be able to buy, but it's just like it builds the intrigue. And then you go on Nike and you see 10, 15 different options. It's like, I'm spoiled for choice.
Yeah,
now I have to buy multiple. Mike has to buy 5 of them.
I know, man. And this is normally how cycles go too, where it'll be like they're testing the waters with some interesting colors and interesting choices to start, and then things really start to ramp up. Then you get the Phoenix Suns colorways. Then you get the really more kind of stylish ones that can just be put on feet for everyday wear and that kind of stuff. But then they like to hit you with a bang, and they're hitting us with a bang right now. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get any of these because we also just saw him. Did you see those Converse Chuck Taylor book ones from last night? I mean, dude, it's a simple, it's a Chuck Taylor, but in a book one, right? A lot of people will probably look at it and be like, it's nothing special. It's basically all black and white. But the connotation for what that means to Devin Booker, because, a Chuck Taylor is probably his most worn shoe just every day. And that's the storytelling aspect that I love about shoes, man. And they're doing this to basically kind of end this era of his first iteration of a shoe. And they've done a great job. I think I had touched on the maroon Chevy Camaro one as well. I have these yellow Chevy book ones that just with the kind of wool material on it. It's different, but it really is just awesome and clean. They've done a great job, I think, with what they've been able to do, I would say, with the book one, because a lot of people it's been hit or miss. But the other thing, and the last thing I think to really keep in mind too, when it comes down to what the longevity will be of Devin, and if you'll see, a book 3 or 4, I think you at minimum will see a book 3. But NBA players still love his shoe, man. In like the semifinals, it was the most worn shoe for the rest of the NBA playoffs last year. So when you're getting the okay from your players in the league as well, they're going to still keep giving it to the masses. So, but T-minus 3 months, probably. Put it on your calendars.
It's right around the corner, man, and it's gonna come up, sooner I think than we expect. Honestly, oh my goodness, I had the next one. I know we went a little bit long on that one. That was a good conversation though. I'm very excited for Devin Booker and the next chapter, Booker chapter 2, the book chapter 2. Yeah. Anyway, moving on, Mike. I think we'll bring a little levity to the conversation. And just laugh. This one will be real quick. Everyone's heard the news. Everyone's laughed. Everyone's liked to post about it. But here is from Reddit r/LA Clippers, and user Screwbitfloor1 11 days ago asked, when's the soonest we can waive this guy? And it's a picture of your favorite two guard, Bradley Beal.
The age of social media is really something special because, we saw this kind of in waves with DeAndre Ayton when he went to Portland the first time, right? Well, where's the hustle? Where's the energy? It's like, haha, now you get to experience it. The Clippers got it really fast with Bradley Beal. I think, Chris, you had tweeted at one point something about how Tyronn Lue had decided that it was going to be better to have a minutes restriction on Bradley Beal. You had basically kind of said, oh, who would have guessed that will probably work? Or they've unlocked Bradley Beal. At the end of the day, Chris, I would like to think that I'm a man of compassion to a certain extent. No matter what happened with Bradley Beal, a hip injury, and at his age, man, this could honestly be a death sentence for his career. Like, I don't know how he is going to be able to come back and be any semblance of himself, even from when he was kind of successful here. Like, it's going to be such an uphill battle for him to really find kind of any of his, previous game, because yes, we always know Father Time is undefeated, but man, those hip joint kind of injuries, it changes your lateral movements, where Bradley Beal was still a successful player in this league because of that, but he's going to struggle with get up. And if he's not a consistent shooter, which I don't think he's shown to be at all since he's left Washington, I don't know how many more opportunities he's going to get. So yeah, he's done for this year. He's going to rehab. He's going to try and come back next year. He's on a team friendly contract with the Clippers. But then again, at the same time, I don't know, because if the Clippers keep going in the same direction that they are right now, they might do a full clean house where you don't see Tyronn Lue come back. You don't see Brian Lawrence as the GM, and you see guys shipped out left and right, and they start a full rebuild. And if you're going to do a rebuild, Bradley Beal just can't be a part of it. So, but it's too funny, man. They got it real quick. Within the first couple of weeks of him being there, they are ready to get him off the pay books, man. It's funny how it always comes around.
It is wild. It's truly, for Suns fans, I know it sounds cruel, but it does put a smile on our face, because it's funny, because he kind of screwed this franchise a little bit. At the game when we were booing the heck out of him, the lady in front of us turned to me and was like, we don't like him? Why don't we like him? And I was like, oh, he ruined our franchise for 2 seasons and stole a bunch of money. And I feel like that's the most succinct way to sum it up. And again, we're not going to rehash all everything that's happened in the past. You all know.
Oh, hold on a second. We do have to rehash. I know. I like how you said 2 seasons, because it was the 2 years that he played with us. But we also have to pay him $20 million for the next 5 years, and we've lost all of our first round capital basically from the trade for him. So he screwed this franchise over for the next 5 years as well. So there's plenty of reason to hate him and boo him. But go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, no, you're good. That's actually a great point. I feel much more justified. But no, back to the broader point of I'm with you, man. The human in me is that sucks. Especially I have a coworker who played college sports, and we were talking about Bradley Beal, and he's like, man, I had a hip injury in college, and it was no joke. It was hard to come back from. So especially a guy that's now, and that a guy that's in his 30s, already had so many injuries, and if he gets waived a second time, maybe there's another team that kicks the tires on him, but I don't expect him to really ever do anything, because you're right. He's had, he went from in Washington being the guy and being dominant, relied upon to score, to go into Phoenix and kind of having to take a back seat, be more of a role player, and then even relegated to coming off the bench, and then going to LA, where with the injuries they've had, he's kind of been thrust into a starting role. But in that game we saw he's never been hasn't made an impact in any of the last 3 seasons that I've seen, whether it's with the Suns or the Clippers. So it's like you have that going with all this injury stuff, barely being healthy the last 2 seasons. Now in this season, going out with the hip injury, like I think he's done, man. I don't think Brad Beal comes back.
And honestly, I really only think the way that he's coming back, yes, next year if the Clippers kick the tires on him again, because obviously he's under contract, but the only way that any team is going to really give him an opportunity, I feel, is if it's that veteran minimum, but like the $1.2 million veteran minimum, and they're going to look at him and basically say, hey, Brad, this is just so you can be like on the roster. You're not really going to play. Does Bradley Beal, do you think that his ego will allow him to do that? And it's not like he needs to go and chase another payday. Hell, like we already talked about it. The Suns are paying him $90 million. So he's going to be just fine. But is he somebody who can set aside the way that he feels to try and contribute as a leader within limited playing time, if playing time at all? So I know the Clippers fans were just pounding sand, especially after he got hurt, to be like, we let Norm Powell go for this guy, and we always planned to start him. Were these NBA execs running my team not watching what was going on the past 3-4 years? Even in his time in Washington, the guy could never play. If you have to rely on him to be a starter, you are in trouble. So feel bad for Clippers fans for a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I'm sure we'll keep tabs on it at some capacity, but I mean, again, not personal. You know, I think Brad Beal's probably an okay guy, but I just don't think he's like shown that he is a leader at any capacity. Didn't do it in Washington, certainly didn't do it in Phoenix. So I just don't think there's really any value for any team. It's not like a Vince Carter situation where you're coming off being, you know, a superstar to having a long career, and then by the end of it being a role player that's coming off the bench, barely getting minutes, but still contributing to be able to be on a roster. And I can't completely remember, but I have to think that Vince Carter probably brought some veteran leadership qualities to that team. I don't see that being the case for Brad Beal, and it's fine. I mean, you don't have to be a leader. You were a good basketball player. You made a lot of money. Go start a podcast probably, or whatever. But Mike, I know we've gone long, but I did want to quickly, if you will allow it, sneak in one last little point of conversation here. All right, perfect. We go back to X and another post from Shams Charania. And this was something I was thinking about as I saw this post come across my feed last night. And it was the news you kind of alluded to. San Antonio Spurs star Victor Wembanyama has a left calf strain and is expected to be sidelined. Now, I couldn't find the original post that someone made that really got me thinking about this, but essentially they had reposted Shams here and made the comment of basically that the NBA is going to really probably have to reconsider that 65 game minimum for players to win awards if Victor Wembanyama continues to miss months of seasons. Because I was, 65 games. So that only gives you the opportunity to miss a maximum of 17 games, which is 20% of the season. So it's like, you would think a player should be able to play 80% of the season. And like, that's not asking like a lot, but I could see him scaling it back to maybe 75%. But Mike, just wanted to get your opinion really more than anything on if you think, as far as that conversation goes about the 65 game minimum, do you see that being scaled back, or will they keep it in place? Because obviously the intent was to curb the load management trend, which I think it's probably done somewhat effectively, but in situations like this, it's kind of tough, right?
It is tough because, this is going to be a big one that I think, those NBA guys who are in charge of everything, obviously Adam Silver, are going to take a look and be like, if we're not headlining our award winners with the true superstars of the game at the end of each season, you might be in trouble, because how do you market that, right? If you're just an NBA fan of Victor Wembanyama because you think he's a freak and he does things that nobody has ever seen, and you've just become an NBA fan, if he doesn't have an opportunity to win anything at the end of the year and his team's not in the playoffs, some people might feel some type of way or be kind of salty about it. But I think this just opens the more general conversation in regards to the injuries that we've seen more so over the past 15 years in the NBA. And is it I understand getting down to the 65 games because there was an issue with load management where teams were not playing their best players for the wrong reasons. But what's going on, man? Is it just these guys are training for way too much year round and their bodies aren't really being able to hold up for it? Is it the technology? We know it's not the technology in the shoes. There have been multiple studies and that kind of stuff, but are these training staffs not truly up to par for the different body styles and for each of these guys to really be healthy enough to make it consistently through the season? Or is it really just like the age of social media is focusing in on these big time athletes or, really pertinent players missing extended amounts of time, that it's really just in our face for the most part comparative to what it was before the age of social media? Michael Jordan came out and talked about how he kind of thinks everybody's babies. I played through everything, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I get that. But we also do live in the age of player empowerment. So it's not going to go back to that. But how do these guys stay healthier? The issue I feel like is going to plague Victor Wembanyama's career for the entirety of his career is it really is because he's a freak, Chris. Like, his body is so long and large, and for consistently putting that type of pressure on your joints, anything, he is going to be dealing with, unfortunately, major injuries, I think, for the entirety of his career. And this is where I kind of start thinking back to my youth. The San Antonio Spurs were a thorn in our side for the entirety of the end of the 2000s. We know the stories with Robert Horry, and we know everything that goes into that. But as I get older, and I've seen so much losing, I just need this league to be as tip top as it possibly can. And that includes players like Victor Wembanyama. So this is horrible, man. This is really, really, I hate this. I hate everything about this. Even if it might be a help for the Phoenix Suns to make the playoffs. If you're a true competitor, what's the true nature of most competitors, Chris, or the top level competitors, I would say, is you want to beat the best. If you want to live at the mountaintop, you got to beat those who are really standing in your way. So I hate this. I hate everything about this. And I'm sorry for your fantasy team, Chris.
I was going to say, man, number 2 overall pick in our fantasy basketball draft have been doing gangbusters for me. Clearly, I should have gone with SGA or Jokic or I don't know, anybody. But yeah, man, like it is unfortunate. Like the guys that are just freakishly tall and not even over 7, like 7, he's 7'4", 7'5". Someone said he grew 2 inches this offseason.
I want to say they're listing him at like 7'6" now.
Fucking outrageous. But unfortunately, like we've seen big guys like this, Sean Bradley, Yao Ming, they don't have it's not like a dramatically shorter shelf life, but they only last about 10 to 15 if you're really lucky. I think I was seeing Yao Ming had played 5 years in China before playing about 10 or 11 in the US. Sean Bradley had about a 11, 12-year career as well. But the injuries just, I mean, it's hard, man. It's brutal. It's got to be brutal, man. And like they're always scrawny. You don't ever see a husky 7'6" guy because it's just they have to eat so much just to maintain that frame. Like it's got to be so physically demanding.
And the issue with his injury too, which is why it puts him on the shelf for a number of weeks, if not a couple of months, is calf strains we know can lead to Achilles tears. And if there is any type of situation where if Victor Wembanyama were to tear his Achilles, Chris, I don't think he would ever return to being anything close to the type of player that he is. Now, there'll be there's going to be semblances of dominance, obviously, because he is 7'6", but for what he does in handling the basketball and playing basically almost like all 5 positions, yeah, they're not going to risk anything about that. And that's what I said when we were doing our draft stream, I said I'm glad that you took the decision out of my hands that I didn't have to pick him, is because if there is any semblance of further injury to anything else with Victor, that puts him on the shelf for weeks, if not months, just with this nature of his size, because he is just truly a different human being, and he has to be looked at in a completely different way comparative to some of these other guys if they come back in just a few weeks from a calf strain. So it's tough, man. Injuries are no joke. They're always happening every NBA season, and it's not like the Phoenix Suns haven't been bit by them, right? You know, Jalen Green has re-injured that same hamstring twice already this year. So caution is always going to be given to these type of players, and it sucks because we're already at 15 games into the season, almost 15 to 17 games. Like, it's going fast already, Chris. And if you're talking about guys missing 20 games, it's going to be all-star break before you know it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think at this rate, Jalen Green's not going to be eligible for any awards by the end of the season. I don't know, man. We'll see. It's tough. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, talking about a guy who has been relatively healthy, played 82 games the last 2 seasons, and now has only played 1.5 games to start this season. But yeah, last thing I'll say with Wemby is I think I agree with what you've said 100%. The Spurs are going to play this safe. They're not in a championship window right now, and they know that. They got a lot of young guys. They want them to stay healthy, continue to learn to play together, have some fun, win some games, maybe sneak into the playoffs. So there's no need to risk it with Wemby right now. And it sucks for my fantasy team, and I maybe need to revisit my strategy. I think something went awry this year, Mike, but that's another conversation for another day. But Mike, that's all I got. This was the Social Swish news from around the net. I thank you very much. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Chris Patrick. Some shoe news and some injury news. It's what the NBA is all about. But we got to finish off today with the outlet point guard. We didn't do it past the outlet because it was the beginning of the NBA season. We just had a whole bunch to get into, but we had to bring it back. The outlet point guard has now transitioned into myself, Michael Benjamin, going through my vast card collection of signed NBA cards. A lot of these are from 2 decades ago. I'm dating myself at this point, but it was from when I was a kid and I was a huge card collector. My dad, I was fortunate enough to have season tickets to the Phoenix Suns, and they used to always have a preseason party for Suns season ticket holders where all of the players would come, and I would get all of my cards signed there. You know, Steve Nash, Amari, Tony Dell, you can just throw all the old names at you. But what I would do is I would go and stand on the visiting side of every game that I would go to, look at the roster, and go through my cards and take cards of all the players that were going to be on the team, even the Gennaro Pargos of the world, the Eric Dampiers, the people that you didn't know about and you've never heard of. We got a lot of them. But since this is the new iteration of outlet point guard, we're going through some of the greatest hits to start. And since the Phoenix Suns just dropped a tough game to the Atlanta Hawks, Chris, and last time we did the outlet point guard, we did J.R. Smith, who's a great one. We had to go and look at one of my all-time favorite players in NBA history, Chris. And this will probably throw a lot of people off because they're like, this guy? Are you serious? Today, we're looking at J-Smoove, the high flyer, Josh Smith, right here. This is his Topps 2004 rookie card when he was drafted by the Atlanta Hawks, 17th overall in the 2004 NBA draft. 6'9", 210 power forward. He played for 5 different teams, Atlanta for many of his years, then Detroit, played for Houston, I think, on 2 stints, as well as the Los Angeles Clippers. And technically they count a 5th team because he played 3 games for the New Orleans Pelicans, but he didn't play the season before, kind of had a shot, and I think that was kind of it. But he was just one of those freakish athletes in the mid-2000s, man. He averaged 14.5 points per game, 7.4 rebounds, and 1.9 blocks in his career. His best season by far was 2011, 2012 when he averaged 18.8 points and 9.6 rebounds. And like when I'm saying people are probably like, this guy's one of your all-time favorites. The accolades as far as, his own personal awards aren't that great. He was all defensive for second team in 2009, 2010. That was it. And then he was a all rookie team member as well. But those were the years. 2004, 2005 was the first year that I was a Phoenix Suns ball boy, and that was his rookie season. And the very first game of the season was against the Atlanta Hawks. So I got to rebound for him, met him, and ended up getting his headband from that game, because back in the day, for any of my ball boys who have ever done this in the past, that was definitely the eras of a lot of headbands, a lot of wristbands. And if games didn't go well, guys would take them off and throw them on the bench. And who was there to collect the rewards after those games? Your boy. I have a Reggie Miller finger band from when the Malice in the Palace happened, and they were missing a bunch of guys. So everybody was wearing Steven Jackson's wristbands. So I have one of those too, but Reggie had thrown his finger band there too. But just a classic for me, Chris. He was a star of the undefeated, nationally #1 ranked Oak Hill Academy team in Virginia. He had a vertical of nearly 40 inches, which was almost unheard of for a player his size 20 years ago. It's more so common nowadays. But one of the bigger things too is obviously that era was when a season later, Joe Johnson did not get the money, and Robert Sarver did not want to pay him to stay in Phoenix. So he ended up going to the Atlanta Hawks. And I love Joe Johnson, and it was just easy to adapt them as one of my favorite teams. Play with guys like Al Horford, Jeff Teague, who we know is just big in social media nowadays, Marvin Williams. He also played with some true legends too, man, like Tracy McGrady, Jerry Stackhouse. One of my favorites of all time, Chris. But when you think of Josh Smith, a.k.a. J-Smoove, what do you think about? What do you remember?
Man, it's going to be kind of funny because, we're talking about the era when you were a ball boy, and like shortly thereafter was an era where I was playing a ton of sports video games, and like my fandom of basketball, like from 2004 on, was just taking off, exploding, and it was cemented as my favorite sport, and NBA was my favorite league. So I say it's going to be a reoccurring theme because I'm going to mention how much I loved playing with Josh Smith in NBA 2K basketball. I would use, and a big thing is my brother. I would just play my brother because this was kind of pre. I wasn't playing on Xbox Live or anything, so I was either playing the computers or I was playing my brother. I was playing Roman, and in like NBA 2K8, I think it was, we would keep like a running tab because it would be like winner stays. We would all trade off, play for like hours. And the Atlanta Hawks were one of the teams I used frequently because I did like to shoot threes, and they had Mike Bibby, Joe Johnson, Josh Smith. Not necessarily using a couple of these guys in 2K, but looking at the roster, some Arizona ties, some more Arizona ties as if there weren't enough already. Salim Stoudemire, U of A legend. I've mentioned him, was there when he hit the shot over, I think, Ike Diagu to beat ASU. And then, Mike Bibby, obviously, from ASU as well. Josh Childress, I think, had a brief stint here in Phoenix. So, man, I really did enjoy Josh Smith. A lot of fun to watch him play, a high flyer. And it was funny in that graphic you had him yamming on Eduardo Nájera there. That was a guy I feel like always kind of kicked around, and like you heard his name a lot, but never really like, there's not anything where I would be like, oh yeah, great player. Just like he had longevity, he was around, but funny to reminisce on these days. But Josh Smith, man, a good career, man.
Dude, that's so funny that you brought up Nájera, because I was even thinking to myself when I was putting together the graphic, I was like, I feel like this is one of those random just guy who played for 8 years in the league that Chris will have some kind of reasoning to why he remembers him. I love that. I absolutely love that. But a lot of people always think about Josh Smith as the high flyer, obviously from his early days in Atlanta. He was a dunk contest winner as well, I believe, when he put on that Dominic Wilkins, given the nod to him, and won it when I think the All-Star game was in Denver, back when Denver had those beautiful baby blue jerseys, man. It's just a different era. different time. That's why the outlet point guard and what we're doing now is just so awesome because, when was the last time anybody has really thought about Josh Smith? Probably a very, very long time ago, because I think the last season he played was either 2016, 2017, or 2017, 2018. So you're coming up on about a decade ago since Josh Smith has played. But, he had that patented cock back left hand. I think that was one of the other things that I loved about him too, is that, he was a lefty and he was truly dominant for his size. And then as he started getting older, I think this is something that a lot of people will talk about. He didn't shoot the best percentage from outside. I think he ended up with like career 29% from three, but he became a way better shooter. And, by the time he was in Los Angeles and Houston, they could count on him to stroke it from outside. So he is just one of those random guys from my upbringing that I saw him and I stuck to his game and I loved it. He was just an absolute freak of nature, could jump out of the gym with the best of them, if not the best for, like a 3-year stint, I would say. And those Hawks teams were really good. They could just never get over the hump in the Eastern Conference. And that always sucked. I felt bad for them too, because they had some really, really good squads. I went through, those named guys. But man, Josh Smith, legend to me, and should be a legend to you. But that was the outlet point guard. Chris, thank you for taking a trip down memory lane with me once again. And we have come to the end of the show. Pass the Outlet, episode 32. It's up there, man. We had a lot of sneaker news today. I love dissecting that stuff. We talked about one of my all-time favorite players in Josh Smith. The Phoenix Suns are about to tip off in a little under 30 minutes. So we still got a whole lot of basketball left for tonight. But Chris, before we end the show, got to give you the floor, man. What do you got for the people? Give it to them, man.
Yeah, man, it's a fun time. I say this like every time the last couple streams for Pass the Outlet, but it's an exciting time for basketball. NBA season's in full swing. We got the NBA Cup going on. Everybody loves the NBA Cup. College basketball is getting underway, and I know most casual basketball fans only care about college basketball in March, but we've already seen some really good matchups. U of A had a great game against UCLA, and I find myself warming to University of Arizona sports, because I feel like we do need a bit of camaraderie in the state, and they are representing the state. They're not just representing Tucson. It's not the University of Tucson. So I think it's okay to show them a little bit of love, but maybe that's just me warming to them because there's been no warming for ASU basketball. It's just been ice, just ice. ASU basketball is a disaster. I can't wait to have the Miller brothers on here to break that all down for us and to really explain to us why Bobby Hurley is as terrible of a coach as he is and why I think he needs to go. They can help me articulate that point a little better. Man, I did not expect to go on that tangent. Not sure where I was going with that, but yeah, love everything that's going on. U of A basketball has an exciting match against UConn tomorrow. Both are ranked near the top nationally. So if you want to watch some fun college basketball, tune in for that tomorrow. But Mike, I'm going to go get some caffeine and get ready to stay up late and watch this Suns game. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. It was fun to be back.
I am just absolutely dumbfounded. Chris Patrick, the new Arizona Wildcat basketball fan. We love it. Sounds like maybe we should make a weekend trip up to Tucson or down to Tucson, technically. But we'll see. I think might just pony up the dough to go see them play ASU at Tempe. Don't sleep too much on ASU right now, Chris. They've started okay. Obviously, they haven't played too many teams. They had a tough game against Gonzaga, but their point guard, they call him Pig Glizzy, man. He's all the rage. Just a different era, man. But we're going to get into college basketball next month on Pass the Outlet. We're going to have some fun next month as well, just because we are coming to the end of 2025, and we really appreciate all of y'all sticking with us. If you're watching live, listening on playback, or listening on podcast streaming services, we appreciate you guys. Make sure you follow us at AZ_VSP on all socials. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to us on Valley Sports Plug YouTube, and we will see you guys next time. Go Suns, and have a good night.
ball is life, plain and simple. You know, ask any baller. If you know, you know.
The game has changed, but it's still the same. You want it, go get it.
Shazam!
The inbounds pass comes into Jordan. Here's Michael at the foul line. The shot on Elo. Ah! The Bulls win! They win it!
Mike, you're honestly telling me that he's top 5.
Yeah.
Top 5 of all time.
No question about it.
Booker, this is for the win. Got it! Wow!
The winner on the floor is made basket.
You know, one thing's for sure. Over at Valley Sports Plug, you're never gonna catch us slipping.
With the first overall pick, the Phoenix Suns select
3, 2,